just remember that they've stolen everything that we own and we built, repackaged it, watered it down, and sold it back to us. They're never going to give it back. You have to decide, I'm done spending money. I'm done buying bullshit.
So self-agency is
taking it back.
And reassess the patterns that you've carved out in your life. Is that?
I would say that they were carved for you and you just followed the path. Other institutions and especially large corporations, the incentive is to take our money and our choices.
Thank you for joining in to Hidden Battles podcast today. This is an important conversation today. We're joined with our host, Jeromie Luginbill, a mental health advocate and owner of IBHS and VCRC. Now, he's on the front line of improving access to behavioral health services, mental health diversion programs, and helping people navigate some of life's toughest challenges. He's written a book about restoring human agency, and we'll be diving into that book. He has a new app, his mission, and how he's working to help people to make real change in their lives. All right, Jeromie. How is it going?
Good. How are you?
Good seeing you again.
Now, we're talking about human agency today.
Yeah.
And this may be I know it's a buzzword, but it could be a new word to a lot of our audience, and it is definitely new to us. So tell us, Jeromie, what is human agency?
There's a lot of different definitions of agency that are really different from each other, but the one that I am talking about and have written about, the book is called Stolen Agency. And essentially the book describes a citizen who we live in a world, especially in the United States, where we're governed by institutions, we're governed by corporations, we're governed by incentives, and the incentives are to steal our agency. And agency means to one degree or another, the ability to decide for ourselves what we take into our lives, vocationally, legally, financially, socially, sexually, recreationally, spiritually, environmentally, and so on and so forth. Our lives are divided up into several categories. That's not a unique idea of mine. It's been, described in the past by other folks that, our lives are comprised of different areas of function, and those are the areas. And it would be according to what the incentives, if you follow the incentive trail of the government and other institutions and especially large corporations, the incentive is to take our money and our choices. And that is why it's stolen agency. Are they knocking on our door, snatching us out of our house, reaching inside of our brains and stealing our decisions? Yeah, so that would be my short rundown of what agency is. Is it the technical definition? Probably not, but that's for the listener.
So would you say that what's driving, so what you're talking about is managing that, right? Mm-hmm. How do we manage that, the importance of managing those aspects that you mentioned? And so my question to you is, is it actually possible to manage it effectively with all of the technology that is out there? When people are stuck on their cell phones, stuck on the media, stuck on going to the website, and all these website providers have all this news, and every time you turn around, there's something distracting you and taking you away from being able to manage human agency.
I don't know. And when you say, is it possible, the answer is absolutely yes. But is it possible under the conditions in which our country operates, where if you do try to stand up for what's right, you are shunned by the media, you're embarrassed, they pull up your past, they put it in front of everybody else to see, you're judged, they commit psychological warfare against people who have been leaders. They did it to Joe Biden, they did it to Kamala Harris, they did it to Donald Trump, they did it to Bobby Kennedy, and there is no sides in this thing. And really what it's about is it's a way for one side or the other to diminish the other side to the point where human beings don't know who to choose.
Right.
And it's really difficult. There are some really promising signs that America knows what's wrong. And I believe that given the right information, which is you already have the answers, America will be just fine. And those answers are, just as we discussed in our last podcast, getting out into nature and restoring yourself back to a state where you belong. Family, church, dinner tables, kitchen tables, communities, healthful activities like sports, being around other people, managing your time appropriately and money, and negotiating whether or not a job is worth your stress or worth the money. There's lots of negotiation. So, but then I think from a socioeconomic and sociological perspective, the more chronic stress that you have, the less likely you are to make a healthful decision, because right now you're just trying to survive.
Right.
And anything that makes life feel better, alcohol, drugs, cell phones, porn, any of the vices, work very well in the short term. Sad point is that over the long run, it diminishes health, it diminishes wellness, and people who have diminished health and diminished wellness have a difficult time maintaining and keeping their agency, to include the middle class, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
So what is something we can do, say practical, to start taking back our agency, restoring our agency? What are some of the things we need to be aware of?
Well, I think what would make sense are two core areas physically, which I'm on a journey on myself. And then financially. Vocational obviously is in there on the higher end. But physically, if we do not have enough time to tell you how important sleep is, but if you want anything to occur in your life for the positive, you better make sure that you're getting restorative sleep. It messes with mitochondrial health. It messes with insulin. And, like right now, my brain feels like it's on fire all the time because I'm on the CPAP machine, and I had sleep debt, and so it's overcorrecting, and now my systems are waking up and it's just firing right and left, and so I'm really excitable really easily. That journey is incredibly difficult for somebody who's well-resourced. So without going down the rabbit hole, I'm going to go back to our original podcast. Stop buying shit. Stop buying shit. You don't need 3,000 pairs of shoes. I bought 3 pairs of shoes for $20 on Amazon. You don't need shit hanging on your walls. You don't need the next new pen. You don't need the next new shirt. You especially in the beginning, when you're restoring agency in the financial area, stop buying shit. You cannot spend your way into being a millionaire. Everybody is capable of being a millionaire. Really quickly, work your tail off, donate blood, save up $3,000, put it into a Vanguard no-load VTSAX fund, put $200 a month in, and you'll be a millionaire by the time you're 65. That easy. It's the agency that's been stolen that says, don't put your money into a VTSAX fund, buy my shit, buy garbage. And I promise you ask the poorest person in the country right now, if the shit that they buy is bullshit, they'll say yes. Everything that they buy falls apart, which is why you have to buy more shit.
So does your book address how
at the
people who have been so conditioned because of media and technology, and it feels good to buy all those different things because maybe you're stressed out about some things that are happening in your personal life or your job, and as they say, old habits are hard to break. So do you address some maybe baby steps in terms of what people can actually do to build up to something you just mentioned, which is fabulous, but most people are going to go, when I get off from work, I gotta have that drink. I feel better when I go and buy all these dresses, and it just makes me feel good because life is so difficult for me.
Yeah. I think I misspoke earlier about the two most important. I think the most important is spirituality and spiritual engagement with a higher power, understanding a purpose, understanding the laws in which religion can sometimes help us govern. I'm not talking about the anti-gay stuff. I'm not talking about the anti-transgender stuff. That's all media hogwash bullshit, King James bullshit, right? The reality is that you have to identify that you even have a problem. Why aren't I a millionaire? And I'm sitting there crying on my crooked ass couch. Well, look around the room. Do you have a $2,000 cell phone? Do you have $3,000 pair of shoes? Do all your children have cell phones? Do you have Nintendos and all this shit going on inside your house? Mm-hmm. Well, there's the answer to your problem is you haven't admitted that you have a spending problem. And by the way, I had powdered milk as a kid. I had honeycombs with weevils inside the motherfucker, so I know what it's like to be in poverty, and I know what it takes to climb out of it. And it's taken me 47 years, and I'm still not out of the bullshit. The idea is to admit that there's a problem and work your entire life rewinding it, hopefully giving your children healthful foods and spiritual activities and training them from a young age to not be consumers. And I know that that's a big mouthful to say. There isn't a baby step. You have to be able to sit down in all of the areas of functional life and clearly in a sober way, and I'm not talking about alcohol, I'm talking about straightforward, say, I have these goals of doing this and doing this and doing this later. Mm-hmm. Where are my current behaviors stopping me from getting there? And if it's a sacrifice that you have to make, then you'll have to negotiate whether or not you're willing to make that sacrifice. So it could be drugs and alcohol. Well, I want to smoke weed. Well, it cures my cancer. It cures HIV. It cures COVID. It cures everything according to the cannabis experts. And so I have to decide, well, am I going to spend $100, $200, $300, $400, $500 on some bullshit ass poisonous weed that's causing some weird disease in people now? And use all these lies and justify my use of it? Or am I actually just going to stop because there's no reason for it? There's no reason. So my point is make the fucking decision that there's a problem or not. And if there's not a decision, step aside. Stop whining, stop crying, stop acting like a victim, and just live your life and just have fun getting high with $3,000 a pair of shoes on. It's fine, do that. But don't then say that the world's a bad place because you're choosing to make it that way.
Listen weekly on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and subscribe, like, and please share with family and friends that can benefit. See you on the journey.